Hey guys, welcome back. We're finally in a new book. That is an awful intro. I should probably delete this, but I just need you all to see the level of excitement that I have to finally be picking up 50 Years in Polygamy. I am looking forward to reading this book because we saw Kristen Decker on the Browns' Sister Wives at some point, and I feel like I'm interested in what she has to say. I don't know what I'm going to be reading right now because, as you can see, this is a thickums, which is fine. That might mean that I may double up on some chapters or something like that. But we're going to begin with the first page, what I see when I first open the book. 50 Years in Polygamy, Big Secrets and Little White Lies. There is so much ado about polygamy these days. Media coverage, HBO's Big Love, TLC's Sister Wives, the revolting acts committed by polygamous cult leader Warren Jeffs, who still directs his followers from his prison cell. All of these keep a slew of polygamy-related issues at the forefront of society, but none can depict the ongoing, daily atrocities and heartaches hidden in these closed societies behind closed doors, within the hearts and souls of thousands of subdued but smiling faces. Kristen Decker's memoir recounts the harsh realities of being born and raised in the second largest polygamous sect in America, the AUB. For 5 decades, Kristen, then her name was Sophia, I did not know she had a different name, was caught up in the cult of plural marriage and lived it until she thought she would truly suffocate. When she finally had the courage to leave, she knew she had to share her story and help others escape. This uncensored version of 50 Years in Polygamy, Big Secrets and Little White Lies, even more than her first book, describes the religious submission, lies, secrets, poverty, abuse, jealousies, depression, and loneliness. The gripping detailed events in this book will shock you, but will also inspire compassion, understanding, and perhaps even the courage to change your own life. Okay, girl, you got me just from that, girl. I can appreciate that forward. I can really appreciate that because it's letting me know what we're in for. Well, actually, that wasn't even the forward. Wait a second. What was that? I just turned the page and I saw something. Oh, that's not even a forward. It's just a comment. All right. I stand corrected. Acknowledgements. My first and foremost acknowledgement is to my wonderful husband, Leroy, who after 6 incredible years together never ceases to amaze me with his devotion, love, and encouragement. He supports my every endeavor, whether it is writing or reading, spending time with our children, grandchildren, and friends, advocating for those who are leaving and have left polygamy, as director of the South Choices Coalition, or anything else. Leroy was the backbone that held me securely together while I wrote of the heartaches of my past life in my first book, 50 Years in Polygamy. While preparing for this book to be published, whenever I've doubted my capabilities, felt overwhelmed with life lessons, been too emotional while trying to help rescue children, and help free those who are busy fighting for the legislation or decriminalization of the bondage of polygamy, my sweetheart man has cheered me onward. Even more amazing to me is that my precious husband cherishes the immense love and adoration I have for him. Once again, I get to express my immense gratitude for Linda Prince. Without her belief in me, this edition would also be lacking or non-existent. Since Linda found me at the Apple Fest in 2010 and encouraged and helped me to get my first book published, she's also spent hours on end doing the first edition of this full-length book as well. There are no words to adequately thank my dear friend, Marion and the others who've also left polygamy, they've contributed firsthand knowledge that gave more substance to the reality of my own life stories and of those who are still inside. They helped with dates, places, input, and advice for this uncensored version of my book. I'm extremely grateful for the front cover photography provided by Voices for Dignity and renowned photographer Tolga Kataz, I think it is. As always and forever, much love, appreciation, and honor goes to all of my family and loved ones. Whether by blood or by heart, my experiences were both lessons and joys in this lifetime that would never have been the same without you. Lastly, to all of my dear friends, acquaintances, and supporters whose names are not listed here only because it would consume so many pages to do so, from the bottom of my heart, a tremendous amount of thanks for your constant inspiration and interest in my first book, and now the rest of my life stories. Thank you so much for reading and for caring. Forward. What courage it took for Kristen Decker to write about her experiences in polygamy. Only those who have been trapped in this lifestyle can relate to the mental anguish she and countless others have endured. After 5 and 7 generations of brainwashing, we both were lured into religious coma, becoming paralyzed by the psychological threats of destruction from birth. Therefore, we learned to remain sweet and silent. We dare not speak out for fear we would betray the brethren. The leaders uttered the edicts threatening hell and damnation if we did not adhere to the strict obedience, so we learned to comply with their religious demands. Kristen and I were both pawns in the scheme of polygamy. Unless you have stomached this experience, you can never understand the heartaches, disappointment, and oppression of being spiritually blackmailed into sharing your husband with other women. Woo! Y'all, I have a feeling that this book is going to have me crying and some more stuff. I might as well get ready to have the tissue nearby because they're speaking with so much passion already. I praise the book 50 Years in Polygamy, Big Secrets and Little White Lies for revealing the manipulation and hopelessness polygamous wives and children are subjected to. Thank you, Kristen, for being a voice in the wilderness, for helping women in polygamy realize their freedom has been withheld and that they really can be free to make their own sound choices. Through the efforts of this amazing woman and others who dare speak the truth, anyone who has believed polygamy is really a choice can learn the difference. So they can also help thousands of religiously oppressed women and children become educated and gain respect for themselves. In this, we hope they'll become fearless and free, discovering their own worth, so they will no longer be held physically, mentally, and spiritually captive. I join Kristen as we raise our voices high, aim to be beacons of light, and campaign for the freedom of all women and children who have been and are still abused. This was from Irene Spencer, New York Times bestseller, author of Shattered Dreams. Wow, wow, wow. All right, y'all, we're still reading. We haven't hit chapter 1 yet. Between 1830 and 1844, Joseph Smith, the founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, taught that plural marriage was ordained of God. He also practiced plural marriage, but did so discreetly because he was concerned about repercussions from outsiders and general public. His death was partially due to the fact that his sexual practices were discovered. Some of the men whose daughters were approached by Joseph Smith were incensed. He first wrote of the revelation on plural marriage on July 12, 1843, and taught the principle more frequently until his death less than a year later. In 1852, LDS Apostle Orson Pratt was asked by Brigham Young to publicly declare that plural marriages were part of the new and everlasting covenant of God. See the doctrine and the covenants? Okay. Joseph Smith's controversial revelation on polygamy drew contempt and hatred towards the LDS Church from around the world. After Joseph Smith's assassination in June 1844, Mormons, including my great-great-grandfather, found solace and strength in the influential leadership of Brigham Young. Between 1847 and Young's death in 1877, Mormons in Utah were somewhat successful at evading the United States government's attempts to abolish polygamy. On September 24, 1890, under continued pressure from his followers and the government, the president of the LDS Church, Wilford Woodruff, published a statement in the Desert News. President Woodruff claimed he had received a revelation from God and stated that anyone who entered into plural marriage after that date would be excommunicated from the church for disharmony. This statement was known as the Manifesto. For quite some time, LDS church members were in limbo because of the philosophical conflicts between Joseph Smith's revelation about the principle of plural marriage and Wilford Woodruff's 1890 manifesto forbidding church members to practice it. Many members of the church wouldn't uphold the manifesto and continue to practice plural marriage and to teach and advocate its necessity here on earth. Most fundamentalists supported John Woolley, 1918 through 1928, Lauren Woolley, 1928 to 1934, Leslie Broadbent, 1934 to 1935, John Barlow, 35 to 49, and Joseph Muser, 49 to 54, as their priesthood leaders. These men commenced to gather a congregation of like believers and began calling themselves the Council of Friends. Following the division in the Council of Friends, set in motion sometime between 1948 and 1951, and explained later in this book, my family continued to uphold Joseph's belief. After Muser's death, that's Joseph, in 1954, my uncle, Rulon Aldred, became the president of those who were identified as the All Red Group. Years later, the congregation began referring to themselves as the priesthood or the work, and subsequently assumed their current title as the Apostolic United Brethren, the AUB. After he was murdered in 1977, my father, Owen, Rulon's first counselor, became the priesthood leader of the All Red Group until his death in 2005. She's just showing us how ingrained her family is by telling us all this in Polygamy and the book. We're still not into chapter 1 yet. The current president, I think it's Lamoine, Lamoine, Jensen, is the current president of the AUB. As the Council of Friends came to close and after John Barlow's death, Charles Leroy Rulon led the Short Creek Group. Years before and after Rulon Jeff's death, his son Warren Jeffs assumed the title of Godhead, with his current adherents who called themselves Fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, and now the United Order. Since the LDS Church Manifesto, hundreds of converts have joined self-proclaimed demigods and polygamous factions, while hundreds have left the polygamous groups. Obviously, those whose families have practiced polygamy for generations and who have had it programmed into their brains are more stalwart in their belief in polygamy. Currently, the three largest polygamous sects are the AUB. She's given the location. I'm just going to say, do y'all want to know the locations? You got Salt Lake, Harvest Haven, Eagle Mountain, Mayfield, Cedar City, Rocky Ridge, Mount Pleasant, in Utah, Montana, Mexico. There's approximately 7,500 members. You have the Short Creek Group, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or FLDS, in Hidell, Utah, Colorado City, Arizona, Pringle, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nevada, Texas, and Canada, as well as break-off groups in Bountiful, Canada, and Centennial Park, Arizona, approximately 12,450 members. Independent polygamists scattered across the Salt Lake Valley and elsewhere, approximately 15,000 members. There's smaller groups that comprise of the LeBarns, that's 500 members. The Kingstons, that's approximately 2,000 members. The Missouri Community, 500 members. The Nilsons, 300 members. The Petersons, Righteous Branch of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that's 200. And James Harmingston, TLC, they're called True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of Saints of the Last Days, approximately 150 members. And I thought there was a lot of branches of Christianity. These not to compare, but my gracious, that's a lot of different groups. And these are just to what's reported. Who's to say? Because there are polygamists out there that don't even fall into this. But the above numbers come from reports in the Utah State Safety Nets premiere in April 2011. However, the total of 40,500 polygamists is an extremely inaccurate figure. My father had close to 200 grandchildren, goodness gracious, when he died. If all 200 of those grandchildren remained fundamentalists and on a low average had only 7 children each, that would give Dad 1,400 great-grandchildren. Those figures don't include the great-great-grandchildren. My nephews have fathered with other wives, but I'm grateful to say many have not stayed in polygamy. Therefore, assuming only 1/2 of those great-grandchildren have stayed or will stay, Dad's polygamous prosperity today would be around 700. That's still a lot of people. Multiply 700 by only 100 polygamous men of my father's generation, many of which had much larger families than his, for a total of at least 70,000 members of the AUB sect, let alone the rest of the polygamous population across the country. And that is where I'm going to end for now. This is just us getting into what we're about to start. Chapter 1, I'm going to go ahead and release it on Friday so that we can get this thing going. All right, y'all. See you next time.